this week's episode of the VYPEU podcast. I'm Will Turwald, and I am joined by Robert Gosling and Tinley Kane. And this week, like all weeks, we're going to cover all things Texas high school sports. And let's go ahead and start off in the Austin area, where Austin High and Lake Travis had a game this past week.
Yeah, we had Lake Travis just having a huge win over Austin High by a score of 62-20. Sophomore quarterback Bo Edmondson threw for 362 yards and 5 touchdowns. Pretty impressive for an underclassman.
Yeah, and he found Jackson Scruggs quite a bit in this game. He had 135 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 3 different running backs had touchdowns in this game.
Not to mention that their season finale is against the Texas powerhouse Westlake on Black Friday. Lots of big name quarterbacks have emerged from both of these two schools, even in the NFL and at the college level currently.
Yeah, you're talking about guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Ehlinger, who's probably going to be in the NFL next year, Nick Foles, Drew Brees. And this year, you've got Bo Edmondson going against Cade Klubnik. This is going to be a great game, and both these teams are going to go pretty far in the playoffs.
All right, switching it over to the side of Katy, we have Katy Seven Lakes versus Katy Morton Ranch. Pretty close game, right?
Yeah, Michael Amico had 129 yards and a touchdown to just give Seven Lakes that 1-point edge.
Yeah, the final score of 14-13. They really needed that production from Amico. And Scott Stanford had 1 rush, but he came out of it with a touchdown. And that's really what set it off for Seven Lakes.
Now, let's talk about the reigning 5A champions. Shadow Creek beats Drake Jesuit by a score of 33-0. Will, do you have anything to say about that one?
Yeah, I was on the call for this game, and honestly, it was just a beatdown. Kyron Jones didn't really show up for the most part in this game. He had a good game, but they really just depended on their rushing game. Kelvon Brown was just amazing out there. The Drake Jesuit run defense just wasn't looking good. But Jones ran it in for 6 and threw a touchdown. He had some pretty crazy plays in there. He found C.J. Guidry a lot. He found Hancock a lot. But for the most part, the other touchdowns were scored by Kelvin Brown and Dylan Campbell. I found this funny because there was a guy that recently just graduated from Drake Jesuit, now plays baseball at the University of Texas, also named Dylan Campbell. This guy came in last drive and actually got a touchdown.
And switching things over to Houston, we had a classic game against Lamar and Bel Air. Lamar ultimately took the win, 21-6.
Yeah, Winston Smith had 128 yards and a score in this game.
And Bryce McKeon came in for 1 pass, and he actually had a 36-yard touchdown, which is pretty impressive.
Way to kind of cement your name in this game, just only coming in for 1 play, right?
Yeah.
Terrence Roan had 3 catches and 67 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Next game against for Lamar, they played Chavez, Westside, and Heights.
Honestly, they've got a pretty easy path to the playoffs. They're not in one of the strongest divisions in Houston, so I think we may see them go kind of far in the playoffs.
Yeah, switching it back to Katy, we have Tompkins rolling over Taylor by a score of 28-0.
Big Friday night game. Both teams at this point were undefeated. It was Tompkins that came out with a shutout victory. Both teams, if you look at them, have quite the bit of talent on their rosters. Yeah,
Tompkins being led by that star quarterback Jalen Milroe, who is committed to the University of Alabama. He did not need to have that big of an impact on this game. The Falcons' running game was kind of leading the way for them.
Yeah, Marquise Shoulders really had a big game. He had an 86-yard touchdown, and they also had some passing attacks. The sophomore wideout Matthew Ogonrin was the team's leading receiver this week.
Also, not to mention, Tompkins' defense was on lockdown, having players like Colby Holter, who's committed to the South Dakota State, and Drew Polidor, an Air Force commit.
As for Katy Taylor, they had a solid offensive line. Bryce Foster and Hayden Connor are both top national recruits. And along with that, the Mustangs have a new wide receiver, Tyrone Irving III, who came in from New Orleans in the offseason.
Yeah, even on the defense, Trevor Woods, who's, not to mention, a Colorado commit, does just about everything for this defense. He's not only a safety, but he's a punter and a return specialist.
Yeah, before we finish up, why don't we talk about some games this upcoming week? The first one that we should talk about is Conroe and Oak Ridge. So based on how the stats have played out, it looks like Conroe has the ability to work out with this 2-quarterback system. It's really unique. They've got senior Jalen Williams. He already has 648 yards and 6 touchdowns. But they've also got Clayton Garlog, who's a junior, and he has 342 yards and 8 touchdowns. It's really going to be interesting to see who's going to take the most snaps on Thursday night against Oak Ridge, who's 3-1 on the season. They're pretty good.
Both teams are 3-1 if you're looking at the stats.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting game to see who's ultimately going to have the better record.
Yeah, Oak Ridge is entering into the game after their first loss of the season to Montgomery. Aside from this will be the War Eagles' first district game of the season. They played 4 not-district games.
Let's talk about just a classic in the city of Houston on Friday.
Big rivalry game here against these two teams. Yeah, we have Stratford and Memorial. Memorial's coming off of a hot 3-game win streak and has outscored their opponents at least 83-0.
Yeah, the Mustangs quarterback Mason Sanders has recorded a 64% completion percentage and 5 total touchdowns. He looks to take advantage of a Stratford defense that has given up 91 points this season.
All right, and another rivalry game. I think it's ironic because it being a rivalry game, these two teams are pretty different from one another. St. John's coming for 1-2. It's coming off of a close game against Episcopal. I say close, even though it's 26-7, because Episcopal should have blew out St. John's, if we're being honest here. And Kincaid's already on a hot 5-game winning streak, so I think ultimately Kincaid should take the win, guys. Am I right, boys?
I think, well, with all the talent Kincaid has, I think they're going to be able to outlast St. John's in this matchup at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, there's some big games coming up this weekend. We're looking forward to covering all of them. I know Strake Jesuit is going to play Pearland Dawson at the Rig. That's going to be a tough one for them. They've already played Pearland this year, so they're 1-3 on the year, looking to get that second win and be a top 4 team in this new district.
What are y'all's predictions overall for this week? Starting off, going back to Conroe and Oak Ridge.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that Conroe is going to take this one. I think that's really interesting that they have 2 quarterbacks and just the opposing defenses just don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, going off of what you said, I just think Conroe has too much talent at the quarterback position. I just think that they're set for the night.
Easily. Conroe, for sure, winning that one. And going off to the biggest rivalry game in Houston right now, Stratford and Memorial, what do you guys got? I think Memorial should take the win.
I think Memorial will as well. They're coming off, like we said, a hot winning streak right now. I just don't think there's anything that will slow down their momentum right now.
Well, guys, I think I'm just going to have to take the wild card right here.
What?
Yeah, I think even though Memorial's been on a roll, they're going to go into this game thinking that Stratford is just going to lay down, and I think really that Stratford's going to have a great game and win this one.
Interesting. And now St. John's and Kincaid. I think Kincaid should win, as I said earlier.
I'm going to stand by what I said earlier as well. I think Kincaid just has a lot of talent on this team, and they'll be taking the win Friday night.
Yeah, I'm not going to be different again. Kincaid's going to win this one, and it's going to be a blowout.
I mean, for all we know, though, Kincaid probably would do the same thing as Episcopal and underestimate St. John's' playing ability at this point. And who knows, maybe there might be a different outcome. But I think, yeah, Kincaid should win this one overall.
Now this game is usually played at Rice Stadium. It's usually a neutral site game, but I've heard that this game will be played at Kincaid, so it'll be just another home game for them. So keep in mind that Kincaid will have that home field advantage.
Well, we had a pretty short show this week, but we're excited next week. It's going to be a big show. We've got someone else from VYPEU coming into the studio.
Yeah, we have Olivia Raymond coming up, hopefully. And yeah.
Yeah, next week is going to be our Halloween special, and this is about halfway through the season, so we're gonna make our predictions for state. We actually made predictions before it started.
But these will be our mid-season evaluations.
Yeah, we've seen a lot through the first few weeks, and I think we're going to see a lot more, and maybe those predictions will hold up come January.
So yeah, thanks for tuning in for the VYPEU podcast.
I'm Robert Gonson.
I'm Will Turboff.
And I'm Tinley Kane.
Thank you.